All right, so a question I get asked a lot, drag settings on your reels for offshore fishing. In this video, we're gonna talk about it. All right, so it's very important, drag settings for your reels.
Big
And
time.
it varies for different species, different reels, stuff like that. Let's just start with our bill fishing setup. Most of boats are using like a 20 class, 25. Some of them might use a 30, you know what I mean? And a bunch of different brands of reels, different styles, stuff like that. But overall, general average, what do you set your drag at for your white marlins, your sailfish?
Everybody's gonna tell you something a little bit different. In the 6 pound area,
Right, that's what I
you know, give or take. Some people want it, a little bit less, a little bit more, but say if you're in the 6 pound range, you're close.
Yeah, and we set ours at 7, and like I say, it's a pound. People are like, what's a pound? You know what I mean? But in that type of fishing, you know, it could matter a little bit, and I think it all depends on whether you're tournament fishing or whether you're charter fishing, stuff like that. It varies, but 6-7 pounds, I think it's across the board as an average. All right, how about your general everyday tuna fishing for that 30 to 60 pound class of yellowfins?
So I'm very particular when it comes to tuna fishing, especially around here. We're trolling 10 poles.
Right.
You guys are trolling 10 poles. If you don't set the drags on all your poles, you're going to have your flat lines go past your short riggers or all the way up to your long riggers, and you're going to have a big mess if you hook 10 tunas.
Right.
So I do mine 14 pounds all the way around, everything exactly the same. And that keeps things when you get whammed. I mean, yeah, sometimes it's not exactly perfect because say, you hook fish on your flat lines first, and your flat lines are, and you're going forward, and the flat lines are stretching out, and they get around your long riggers even, or your short riggers, and then everything else comes down. So it may still get together some, but
Right.
but keeping everything the same from the start really helps from having a lot of burn offs and a big tangled mess.
Yeah. Now, will that drag setting handle, like say you get cracked by the big eyes?
Yeah, it'd be fine. Most time, it looks like they're going to dump you. Most of us nowadays have backing.
Right.
So a 50 class reel or 70 with backing, I mean, they're not going to dump you. But worst case, one starts to really stretch you out, I bump it up there on the button. So just gives it a couple more pounds of drag, and normally it's enough to slow it down.
Right. Now,
And I've had to. I mean, before we had backing years ago, we had all mono and 50s. A couple of times where they were about to dump me on my long riggers, and I put them up there to full. I mean, if your stuff's right, you should be fine. I had it full where I'm coming down to a couple wraps, and then finally the fish stopped, and I'm like, thank you, Lord,
Yeah.
But shouldn't have to do that now with the backing.
Now, just for some of you that might not be familiar with the term backing, it is a braided shot of line that you start your spool with, and then over top of that we use a monofilament line, and it's just that the braid has a smaller diameter. It packs on there better than the monofilament, and plus it makes it easier to change out. You can change your top shot of mono more frequently to keep it fresh in case you get, where the lines have crossed and nicked and stuff like that. The backing hardly ever sees daylight, stays in the sun, where the top shot, does a lot. If your rods are out all day, every day, the sun does get after them, and just normal wear and tear. So it's a lot more cost effective to have a top shot of mono with backing too, and it gives you a lot longer length of line that you can
the
fight
line
the fish
capacity increase is awesome.
It is crazy.
Awesome.
So getting back to our drag settings, back in your bluefin days, how about that? What would you normally keep your reel set at then? That's a tough one because everybody's got different opinions on this.
Yeah, with us, to be honest with you, I changed it several times over the years. I don't know, depending on the size of fish we were catching. I mean, back when I did it, we had a lot of 200 to 500 pound fish. Nowadays, what you guys are catching, it's a whole different animal than what we caught back then. I mean, what we caught back then is nothing compared to what you guys catch. But some guys are putting it 28 pounds and dragging it 28 pounds, and when they hook the fish fish settles down, bumping up from there. Some guys are a lot more than that.
Yeah.
It's all personal preference.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing nowadays?
Well, we were going pretty light on the drag, but what I've learned is you've got to trust in all your connections and your tackle, your terminal tackle, and you can put a lot more heat on them. So, and it cuts down on the fight time a lot. Yeah, I've had instances where we fought fish for a whole day, and it just burns up a lot of time and stuff like that. And I've realized that our crimps and leaders and hooks, we've gotten that down to a science where we can put 40 pounds of drag on them easy, you know what I mean, and get them onto the boat. That's not always a good thing for the big bluefins, but it all depends on how they're acting, where you are, what kind of water they're in, and stuff like that. But yeah, that's what we do. And like I say, once you get familiar with your ability to prep your tackle and pretty much make it bulletproof, you can go up in the drag. Like you were telling me a story a while ago about how big eyes, you learn to break big eyes with drag. A lot of guys fight them for 2-3 hours and bump that drag on up there, and they'll come right onto the boat. Yeah,
they'll come up.
And the same thing with the bluefin too. I mean, some bluefins are animals, and you can't break their will. It just takes time. But sometimes you can get their head coming that way. You just keep their head up. You know what I mean? Even they're in their turn. You know what I mean? Their pinwheel. You keep that head just pulled up the whole time, and don't let them get it down. You can break their will, and it's a lot shorter fight. So this is what we use to set the drag. It's called a drag scale. There's a couple different sizes I think this comes in. This one does 250 pounds of drag. And I mean, you could set your white marlin rods with this, but this is not very exact. You need a smaller size scale for that one. We do have a smaller version of this, just like this, but this is what we use to set all of our tuna gear and stuff like that.
I think we sell 2 different versions of that scale. I think we saw a 25 and then that 50.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
So.
And we use a 25 for our small stuff, and this 50 for our bigger stuff. And once you get familiar, like if you're on the dock and you're using the scale, I would recommend putting it up to the button and pulling. Getting familiar with everything. So that way, I always, when we're setting out in the morning, which I'm not back in the cockpit, but when I used to be, I would always set out, and every time I go to lock one up, pull on it. You know what I mean? Just to make sure that nothing's changed. Because sometimes, there's reels, if they're faulty, the drag will change, sometimes. So
big time.
I'm always checking. And then once you get a feel for it, you don't have to check your reels all the time and just make sure that the drag setting's perfect. You get a feel for what 18 pounds of drag is, or what 40 pounds of drag is. The 7, you get a feel for that too. But no, drag setting is very, very, very important, and a lot of times it's overlooked.
Yeah, well, that's a mistake that char fishing that I saw people making over the years. You're tuna fishing 1 hour, and then the next thing you know, some gaffer dolphins show up, and there's dolphin around. Well, guys leaving their 50s while they're dragging them, sea witches and values out there, they leave them at 14 pounds. You're going to rip the face off of every dolphin that comes in there and eats.
That's right.
Pin's going to pop. It's going to come down, come tight. The thing's going to fly out of the water. Dolphins, you basically break the dolphin's neck, and you're going to pull the hook. So what I always did as a mate, when I started to see other fish coming in there, I'd back the drag off and have a lighter drag for dolphin, or if a white marlin or sailfish comes in there. When you're tuna fishing, obviously you don't have the right hook, but you have the hook that work. Just light drag them, to keep them on there. So there's things that that are important to do while you're out there. You can't just have things set at one poundage and leave it like that all day. It may change depending on what fish decide to swim in there throughout the day. Or say you go out there and you're going to catch yellowfins, and you show up down there in the lump and there's freaking blackfins everywhere. And if you had 14 pounds of drag on all your stuff and tight clips, you'd be missing blackfins left and right. These little 5 to 10, 15 pound footballs, you're ripping their faces off, and you're not gonna come up with much. But if you lighten your drags, you can hold on to most of them.
That's right. And that's what I think is a very important note to make about offshore fishing, is you always have to be thinking and switching with the current situation. Because I mean, you made it for years here, and you could be tuna fishing, bill fishing, bailing dolphin, and back to tuna fishing all in one day. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's crazy.
Oregon Inlet, I mean, you got to be able to do it all. I mean, I might have my bailing rods out, tuna poles, dolphin poles, white marlin stuff. Then I might go bottom fishing because I don't catch much of anything on the way in the afternoon. Then you got, I mean, you have 20, 30 rods out, you know, but you got to be ready for everything, you know, and that's this area that we fish in. You know a lot about that because that's every day for you guys, especially like the month of like July or August. I mean, you know, you may catch tunas, you may catch dolphin, you may have to go bottom fishing, or the billfish might show up.
That's right. Now let me ask you a question. These drag scales that we use, they're specific for that purpose. Could one just use a normal hanging scale to test their drag?
Good question.
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably. Have I ever used any scales? But those right there, we've always bought, you know, the ones I sell at the shop, which I sell digital ones too, but normally the digital ones I sell to guys, you know, catching smaller fish, doing different things.
Right.
I've always used the pull scales like that.
Yeah, and I think the reason that they have a stop. You know, once you pull and stretch, the stopper stays there and lets you know what the max was. And I think there's some other like kind of mechanical scales that have that stopper on them too, but a digital scale would kind of be, because that goes up and down, you know, with the weight, so it'd be hard to do that. But yep, get yourself a drag scale. You can get them right there to Ocean's East here in Nags Head, and along with all the rest of your fishing goodies, rods, reels, tackle, they'll fix your rate up. And we'd love to have you go with us on the Speechless here. You can book your trip online, speechlesssportfishing.com. Go right on there, get your hats, sweatshirts, t-shirts, we got it all. We'd love to see you go fishing with us right here at Pirates Cove Marina, Slip 92. Until next time.